still there, their symptoms, and also I have a lot of research on other facilities.
In order to create a positive world for ourselves, we have to create a positive mindset. In order to do that, there are three elements. The three elements are the core, which is you, your personal environment, and your environment surrounding you.
Yes. Hey, welcome to APN TV Media Backstage Pass. Here today we have returning author and writer. Her name is Patricia Lee. And Patricia Lee, I'm glad to have you. Glad to have you back. Actually.
I'm glad to be back.
And I'm telling you, this is crazy. The things that it's been through. If you know, the first book was titled "State of Michigan Sick Building Syndrome." Okay, it's an actual documentary book. And the second book is titled "State of Michigan Sick Building Syndrome: From Mold to Coronavirus." Okay, and I'll tell you what, let's get this party started, and we'll be right back after this. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, Patricia. Now I'm telling you, this is crazy. I mean, you know, after your first one, after the first book, the State of Michigan Sick Building Syndrome, what happened? What happened during the course of time? Because I'm trying to relate it from going back to the first book, or should I say, what compelled you to start writing the second book, the documentary of it?
What compelled me to do the second book was they didn't take the first book seriously. They suppressed the first book, so people couldn't get that vital information. And then the second book, um, the first book was more about me and my illness
Mhm.
and my symptoms, whereas the second book is more about the coworkers that are, excuse me, still there, their symptoms. And also, I have a lot of research from other facilities, prisons, jails, hospitals that had been neglected as far as water damage. And then that's the perfect breeding ground for bacteria, mold, viruses to grow. So I put two and two together and I wrote the book.
Interesting. I did catch on when you said that there's some of the workers that were still there right into the second one to go into coronavirus.
Yes,
So it affected that area, that facility as well.
yes,
Okay. On top of the mold.
exactly. I don't know if I mentioned it.
Mhm.
In 2018, the prison across the street where I also used to work that had water damage, the women's prison, they did a class, they started a class action lawsuit on behalf of prisoners for mold exposure. And they had reported that it was scabies, but I guess one of the prisoners ended up getting released and she sought her own doctor. And the doctor was like, no, this isn't scabies, this is a mold rash, right? So you got 5 law firms here in Michigan that decided to band together and do a class action lawsuit on behalf of the prisoners. And the same thing is going on in these other facilities, and they're minimizing it or basically covering it up. In the second book, it's a lot of research in there. Like I said, different jails, different prisons that have been neglected, and people were getting sick. And then all of a sudden it leads to 2020. And then now you got these coronavirus cases. But, like I tell people, in these facilities, they're high occupancy, long term, occupancy. They've been damaged, and it's just a perfect breeding ground. And this is what happens.
Mm. One thing I would like for all of you to know that now she is not insane. Okay, if you're known from the first time she was on a show of APN TV Media, uh, um, it was like you was near retirement during that time. You was in retirement, the
Well,
18 years, 17 years.
a total of 18 years altogether by 2018. But they had stopped the state retirement plan. But, I loved my job. I was very good at my job. I had pride in my job because I knew that not everybody was cut out to be a correction officer or a forensic security officer. And I was very good at my job. And I made good money and I worked a lot of overtime. So I planned on being there, for a while. So this was unfortunate, but it wasn't worth risking my life over because I knew that they weren't taking this serious and that they weren't going to do anything to rectify the problem. They weren't trying to get to the root cause of the water damage. And I knew with all the symptoms that I was experiencing, over 30 symptoms, that I knew my body was in crisis. And if I would have continued, I was going to die. And no job was worth that. I was never offered another state job. They never tried to move me. They basically just ignored me and thought I was going to go away.
Mm. I have some questions here I wanted to ask you, and one of the things is, and plus, coming up we will be asking our audience, go out to the audience, and we'll be asking some questions as well. I'm sure they probably have questions they would like to ask our guest today, Patricia Lee. So, you know, before we go to here's one question. I'm just going to throw this out ahead of time. Okay, what message that I mean, we're going to start out this way. What message, besides putting the two books together, which we already did, is what message that you would like to convey to your audience?
My whole message was to expose the truth. When you have a building, this specific building, built in 2004, the building cost over $100 million to build, and it was built with a flat roof. So when it was completed in late 2004, the roof started leaking immediately. So it had to sit over the winter unoccupied while they repaired the roof. So in the meantime, the sprinkler system burst. So you can say this building was doomed from the start because it had water damage as soon as it was complete.
It was a brand new building.
Exactly.
So what happened? I mean, no, did anybody try to check it out and see if for the repairs or anything?
They fixed it and they kept it moving. But what people don't realize, and that I have learned through research, that when you have a water leak, like we discussed this before, when you have a leak and you see those stained ceiling tiles or whatever, if that leak is not repaired and stopped within 24 to 48 hours and that ceiling tile changed, you risk, mycotoxins start to be produced in the air from mold fungus. And so if you got water damage and all you're doing is just turning off the water and not using the shower like this facility just started to do or whatever, I'm just using the shower because that was the main focus of a lot of the problem. But so if you just turn it off and don't use it and put an out of order sign on it and go to the next one until that one break, until, we went on my unit, which was East 1, there was 4 showers upstairs. One shower broke, they put a sign on the door, took the keyhole out so we couldn't use, let the patients in there or whatever. I mentioned that in my both books. There's a picture. Out of order, they took the keyhole out. So you go from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 to all the showers are broke, which doesn't make any sense. So in the meantime, all of those showers that you have closed that you're not repairing are festering and breeding mold behind the walls, floors, and in the ceilings. And this went on for years and years and years. And, I noticed it, I'm sure other people noticed the stained ceiling tiles, but they were dry or whatever, so we didn't think anything of it until many years later when I started having symptoms. And I went to my doctor. I went to several doctors basically to find out. And I, after seeing like 18 different specialists, I finally stumbled across an environmental doctor that's an hour and 15-minute drive. He's in Grand Blanc, Michigan. And this man basically saved my life.
Oh.
He was the one that diagnosed me. I even went so far, I mentioned it in the first book, I flew to Alpharetta, Georgia, I think that's how you pronounce it, to the National Center for Environmental Disease, I think.
Yes.
And had never been to Atlanta before, went by myself. My daughter was like, "Ma, you so happy and chipper, like you going on vacation." And I'm thinking, this was back in 2016. I'm thinking I'm finally, about to get diagnosed, find somebody that can help me. because my body was just, I was doing, I was like all over the place. I'm surprised I didn't have a nervous breakdown. But, I got down there on a Sunday because my appointment was for the Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sunday was actually Mother's Day in 2016. So, me and my kids went out, we celebrated Saturday.
Okay.
So I get down there Sunday, I check into my hotel. I got to be early. I got to be on time in case my GPS, ain't working right or whatever. And I check into the hotel. I get up early the next day, and I actually had to drive like 35 or 40 minutes to find this place.
Yeah.
And I got there early, as usual. And I said, well, the closest restaurant there was like a Waffle House. I'm going to go have breakfast. So I'm sitting in there having breakfast, and I get a phone call from the guy named Aaron. He was the one that facilitated the whole hotels, all of that, the package for me. And he said, Miss Lee, unfortunately, the doctor that you were going to see had a triple bypass this weekend. And, we're trying to have, find another doctor to come in to see you. So I'm like, okay. So he was like, well, go back to your hotel and we'll call you back. So I'm always trying to think ahead. And I was like, well, I'm going to just sit here and enjoy, my breakfast. And then I'll just go wait in the parking lot because I'm sure they got more than one doctor, right?
Yes.
To make a long story short, I sat in the parking lot for 2.5 hours.
Ooh.
And I never got a call back. And so it's starting to get late in the day. And I'm thinking, I know this doctor's office or whatever it is probably doesn't stay open 24 hours. So I go back to my hotel, and almost 6 o'clock, I get a call, and they was like, we're going to have to reschedule you. We weren't, able to find you another doctor. We're going to, reimburse your money, and we'll call your doctor by Friday to do a telehealth to tell your doctor here in Michigan how to treat you. And they refunded my money right away back on my credit card. And 3 days after I got back home, I got the gas for the rental car. I mean, they reimbursed me for everything, but I never heard anything as far as another visit. I even tried calling, couldn't get in touch with anybody. So I go to see my therapist, and I'm just crying. And I'm like, it was all a scam, and and I'm so depressed. And he was like, you know what, Pat, I don't think it was a scam. He said, because if it was a scam, they wouldn't have gave you your money back. And so a light came on, and I thought about it, and I was like, that makes sense. He said, I think somebody contacted them and told them don't treat you.
Wow. Well, makes you wonder why would they do that, but except for, yeah, that's a,
Because it's not covered by your insurance. It would have been out of pocket anyway. I mean, the insurance only covers a small part, lab fees or something like that. Basically, this kind of care is out of pocket.
Oh, okay. So now that's for the treatment for mold.
Yes.
So generally, I mean, what you're sharing is that actually there's probably quite a bit of insurance agencies doesn't count mold as because it's rare. Well, actually, it's not really rare. A lot of us don't even know it. That we were exposed to mold. I remember a few years back, somebody we did almost a decade back. We did a show over in Emerald, where the pavilion's at, where they had Earth Day, and they were talking about all types of mold that we didn't even realize that can affect us. That's where it takes me back to. And I'm wondering, is mold covered in insurance policies?
No, it's not covered, and mold is not rare. Mold is more widespread now, and it's not covered by your insurance. And I think that's why a lot of people shy away from getting proper treatment, because the majority of the person, whether you worked hard for this insurance or whatever, you want your insurance to cover you, right? So a lot of people would rather go and see a doctor and have their insurance cover it, but they might not be getting the best care because the doctor who can really help them doesn't take their insurance. So
okay, so when the what happened when your doctor discovered the mold? When your doctor wait a minute, how about this? Can you count how many doctors you had to go through?
It was a total altogether. I made a list, and I think I shared it in the book. I saw 18 different doctors. I saw like 4 pulmonary doctors, I think 3 or 4 different allergists, cardiologists, neurologists, because with all the symptoms, I was all over the place. Like the first doctor told me I had asthma. He said, the first pulmonary doctor was like, you have asthma, only 30% of your lung is functioning. And then, he put me on the inhaler and everything. And, he had me taking all these tests and stuff. And I said, okay, I don't really like taking medicine and stuff, but I'll try it for 6 months. It was no difference. So then I go see another pulmonary doctor. He said, you don't have asthma. He said, I don't know what you have, but you don't have asthma. And he said, I'm not the kind of doctor that's going to milk your insurance company. So he was nice enough to let me know up front. He couldn't help me.
But did he know that you had something? Or he wasn't sure?
He wasn't sure. He said he didn't know what was wrong with me. I went to ear, nose, and throat doctors. But my first doctor, my primary care doctor, believed me from the start, because I mentioned him in the book too, because he was the one that kept sending me all these other different specialists, because he himself had experienced water damage in one of his offices before, and he started having asthma-related symptoms. And he figured out that's what it was. So he believed me from the beginning. So between him and the other doctor, I saw many doctors in between.
Well, then once it was discovered that you was affected by the mold, okay, what happened? What happened? What was the next step? What could you do? Or did anybody do anything to help you from that
No.
point?
When I found out, when the doctor finally tested me for mold, the one that I say is in Grand Blanc, Michigan, not only did I have the 2 molds that they detected on my unit, but I had 7 more. So that my body was so toxic, because I think they only test you for 18 molds. So I had half in my body. So my body was so toxic. That's what I was saying earlier when we were talking. I would work out almost every day at work on the treadmill, because it was like a stress reliever to get off the unit. It was a high stressful job. And I would put my headphones on, get on the treadmill, but I was not sweating. And so I didn't know the reason why. I was eating better, but I couldn't lose weight. So once I started detoxing with this doctor, I realized what he basically told me, your body is so toxic. That's why you're not sweating. But if you keep doing, your treatment, you'll start to sweat, and you'll start to sweat the toxins out of you. And again, once I got going, I think within 3 months, I had lost like 55 pounds.
Where are you? Where are you?
For me to ask to wear a mask to come back to work for my serious health issues.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, now I'm just going back to just for a moment here. This is the Forensic Center.
Center
Right.
for Forensic Psychiatry, yes, also known as the Forensic Center.
Okay, so what is it that they do there?
It's basically it's the same thing as corrections, but we deal with patients.
Mm-hmm.
They're considered patients. They're there for they're either not guilty by reason of insanity or incompetent to stand trial, and they're basically housed there. So they're patients when at the prisons they're considered
So they're on hold
prisoners.
there
Yes,
until they make a decision.
yes,
Okay, so they're on hold there. So I'm looking at the term forensic.
Mhm.
That's why. Okay, so this is a decision to determine if they're insane or not, or I mean beyond just being guilty or not. I mean that's what I need you to explain to us so we understand what the term forensic. Okay, that facility. What does it actually do? It's just houses or
they go through the court system. They have everything there. We have a court in there. We have
wow.
transportation in there. So it's basically, when someone has like a mental illness, they
Yes.
would go through the court system, and then the court will order them there for evaluation, or the court will order them there to basically stay until they're either found competent, or if they're not guilty or whatever, they would just stay there, remain there.
I'm on the shit that was really kind of interesting. You ever watch those movies? It's those with those movies that that you see where they say before they say guilty or not guilty, and you see the guy's supposed to be a criminal. They want to determine if they're insane or not. Okay, those movies, and then they take them somewhere, not the actual prison cell or down in some area in the county or whatever. They take them to a forensic
Be
place.
tested, yes.
Yes, that's something. I just thought that was pretty cool to have somebody here that actually, like we watch it in the movies, there's another area besides just the jail cell that sit them at
Definitely.
for those to determine if you're insane or not. They, are mentally ill. That's where she works at. Okay, that's the type of place. So now every time you see a movie or something like that, see those movies with Richard Gere in them. Like he was, he did one of them shows. Richard Gere. I forgot what it was called, but anyway, I'm tripping on it because now I know. I'm like, so that's where they go. During court time, they don't take them back there or down. They take them out to a third place, a place on hold. Yes,
for a mental evaluation.
Mental evaluation. Very good for mental evaluation. Now we're getting an understanding where they're at. So this whole thing is surrounded by in a mental evaluation place where this situation is happening, because now we got that'll make you crazy anyway, because now they're living in an environment with the mold that was severe because it affected the workers, which she is one of them. Okay, now she's saying to wear the mask, which is back since 2015.
No, I started wearing a mask in 2017.
17, but you've been back there. The situation, incidents that happened in 2015.
In 2015 is when I first noticed my symptoms and I reported it. Well, I noticed my symptoms in 2014. Oh, and by 2015 in January, that's when I reported it, because me and my doctor had determined what was the cause, because basically I would change furnace filters. I would change refrigerator filters. I started using all natural products. I started making my own toiletries, deodorant, toothpaste, stuff like that, trying to get my environment as natural as possible. So I knew once I did my house, because I had only been in my house for 3 years or 4 years, something like that. Okay. I had my ductworks clean. I did everything possible to pinpoint where my illness was coming from, because basically like a lot of people that work with me would say, the same thing is when they're at work, they experience all these symptoms, but they're 2 days off and they're on vacation, they feel so much better.
Written with honesty that stings is the true story of a girl. Joining the Marines is her escape from home, but the toughest challenge still lies ahead. When Jessica outperforms some of the men, chivalry turns to ugly rivalry. The Marine Corps trained Jessica to kill the enemy. The enemy is surprisingly close. It's a perfect breeding ground for germs and,
bacteria, viruses, or whatever. But then when you add in the water damage, like I said earlier, the 24 to 48 hour frame, people need to really take that seriously, because mycotoxins start releasing in the air. And just like a virus or anything, you can't see that. So you don't really know you're exposed, or it's in the air. And then when you have facilities like this, like those that have recycled air, basically it can be so far gone and so costly that they don't do proper repairs. I'll take for instance, it was a state courthouse. I forgot, a couple years ago I saw this article. I forgot what state it was in, but it cost $10 million to build this courthouse, right? And they had water damage in there, and it started making people in the courthouse sick. So they closed down the courthouse and moved to another building, right? It cost $31 million to repair a $10 million courthouse. So if this facility costs $100 million, and it would take 3 times that to do the proper repairs, they're not trying to spend that kind of money. And then another thing I mentioned in my book also, the forensic center is the only hospital like that in Michigan. So they're not trying to close that.
Wow.
Because it has the court system, it has everything right there.
Did anybody no names, nothing like that. It's just because it's in, these things are in your book, and some of them are blanketed out from an omitted. In other words, just what do you call it? Just blanketed across. Okay, swiped across. You all know who their names are. Anybody else besides just because I know the one that discovered when we to take the picture during that timeline, discovered that that the black mold from the vent when she was cleaning, and it came down. So we know that actually happened. So that's a witness to that. That's us getting it. So there's a witness to that. So she's not crazy. It happened, and she would go get her camera. Now, during that time, to the second book, were there any other people that were affected? Was there prisoners affected? Any workers affected? Any deaths? Anything?
Yes, actually, there were. In the second book, I got permission from coworkers to use their symptoms, and I told them, I wouldn't give out their identity because I didn't want them to be retaliated against or ostracized, or like I have been. So again, I used their information. I didn't use their names. I didn't use he, she, anything. And yes, and then also I mentioned that this facility has had several patient outbreaks. Like in 2017, when I mentioned about wearing a mask, they had another one in 2018. The article, it was in both books, where the young man I told you was on my unit that died. And this 28-year-old man died from multiple organ failure and sepsis. And he was awarded a state when it happened. And so 2017, 2018, when he died in 2018, it actually, I believe, was a total of 7 patients within 3 days that had got sick and went to the hospital. Him and the one that was on the adjacent unit from mine, they were in ICU. And he ended up passing. They had another outbreak in 2019. So they've had one in 2017, 2018, 2019, and then 2020.
Wow.
So that's what I mentioned when we were talking, and I said the virus was already there. Nobody opened up the door or brought this virus in. It was already there. It was already there, breeding and growing. You can name it whatever you want. It's funny because this facility refused to admit they had a water damage or mold problem. But then as soon as coronavirus come, they announced that and accept that. And they also accepted that state funding that came along with it. I was even told that they went as far as to make a co-ed unit, a co-ed COVID-19 unit. And as far as I'm concerned, they still have it. I don't know how many patients they have on there. But yeah, you won't admit this, but you admit this because you get paid for it. You get money for it. You get it, you know.
And that's somehow supposed to cover everything from that point. Very good. I tell you what, when we come back, we're going to ask some questions from our, well, actually, we're going to get the questions from our audience. Okay? We'll see you in a minute.
When does turning your life around mean losing everything? When Mel's life, love, and career start to take a turn for the better. Envy steps in.
It should have been impossible, but his mother was dying. She was tall and beautiful, still in the full health and vigor of her prime, despite having lied more than 1,000 years near the hot spring of her magnificent forest. That, for dryads, was the way of things. She wore very little because she had no need of clothing, no matter the time of year. She slumbered in winter, when the sap ran slow and her forests lay silent, and she awoke each spring, pale as the moon, lithe and hungry, and fertile. She blossomed through the summer, and by autumn she was full-bodied, curvaceous, with skin of cinnamon gold. Her name was Tiger, and she was the object of every man's desire.
Yes, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, do you have a question?
In our old building, we did have asbestos, and we had a lot of issues in the old building. But this was a brand new building, so it shouldn't have been any asbestos or any problems in the new building. Like I said, just the way it was built with a flat roof, and that just started the ball bouncing.
Did they find any of that in the old building too?
Asbestos?
Any of that mold or?
I don't know about the mold. I know they found asbestos in the old building. So yeah, so I worked there from 2000 to 2005. Then we went to the new building. I got bumped to corrections across the street for 18 months and then came back. So I went from asbestos to water damage to more water damage. So that was my career.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, it's a very strict protocol. It's very difficult. A lot of people don't do it. We were talking about this earlier also.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complete lifestyle change. A lot of detoxing, a lot of infrared saunas, a lot of colonics, ionic foot soaks, it's supplements, you know, and then it's so much avoidance of prescription medication. I have to avoid sugar, alcohol, wheat, yeast. I have to have low carb diet, no chocolate. I'm sure it's no dairy. It's just it's a complete. You got to change everything, but it's worth it. It's just hard to stick to it. You're welcome.
Thank you. And thank all of you for asking questions. And you know what? I know we're running out of time, but I'm glad you came back.
Thank you.
We're doing another interview pretty soon with you. And, Patricia Lee, everybody, Patricia Lee, and and her both her books. And, oh, by the way, you're on. They can reach you on Facebook.
Yes.
And what is the your page? What's that?
Oh, on Facebook, I have a mold recovery page, which is Pat's Mold Recovery Journey, and
Yes.
I basically I share words of encouragement. I share information. I share things that have helped me. I share recipes. I do my detoxing and stuff on there, and make a video. So yeah.
Very good. Very good. Okay, and you know what? The both books is that you be able to because of what today's world is now, so you can actually, besides going to Wally World or which is Walmart, we all call it Wally World. I always call it Wally World. Sound like Willy Wonka, huh? But nevertheless, you can get our books. The first book is called The State of Michigan Sick Building Syndrome. The second book is titled State of Michigan Sick Building Syndrome, From Mold to Coronavirus. You can get it anywhere from any store on the planet. And I'm talking about you can go online database system. In other words, go to the stores online and be able to make your purchases. Okay, and include Amazon. So
if you can if you can pull it up on Amazon.
Oh, by the way, those pictures that you have.
Right. Before we close,
yes.
We didn't mention the Google suppression. And I just want the viewers to know that, like I said, I really loved my job. I did. Mm-hmm. And I was so proud doing that job. And when I started getting sick, and I made a comment on there. I think I started in 2017, and I basically was just letting people know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I would go back in and update it 2018, 2019, 2020. I didn't realize that Google had hid it until I was actually talking to an attorney on the phone, and she said, "I can't see your comment." So I laughed and I said, "Well, maybe they blocked me or something." And so when I got off the phone from her, I can always see it. I up until this day, I can always see my comment, and I can see all the photos. I have like 25 photos of the water damage, just mm-hmm. like in my books. I have those same pictures, in the comment. So I asked my daughter when she came home, it's not on there. And I asked, a couple more of my friends that work there, it's not on there. So I asked like 5 or 6 different people, again, to be sure. So they had hid the comment, removed the comment from the public's view, but I could still see it. So if it wasn't for the lawyer, I wouldn't have been none the wiser. So this is the picture. This picture right here. This picture is of a moldy shower where they used to keep, they used to store like the housekeeping stuff in it, the cleaning supplies and everything. And so when I received this picture, I believe it was in this shower, it was taken in December of 2018. So instantly when I got this from a coworker, I attached it to my comment. You see it has 82,000 views, right? The reason why it has so many views is because it was actually attached. So when you would Google the Center for Forensic Psychiatry, this picture would instantly come up. That's why it had so many views. I had figured out a way. I don't know how I did it. I had 3 other pictures up there, but they took those 3 down. But this one stayed up there. So you see it has 15. My comment was one of the 15. So then when I found out that I had been blocked, you see the number now? It's 14. That was when they hid it from the public, but I could still see it. You see the 14? Mm-hmm. So I went back, and this is the comment now, I guess because I called out Google in my second book. In my second book, I tell people, stop reading and Google this information, and you will see my comment is not there. So I'm sure they got wind of my second book. So now it's back, and I have added the second book to it. But see, it has on here that I have 19 photos when it's 25, right? But even the 19, you can't see any of the 19 photos. You can't see any of the photos. So this is what it looks like now when you Google it. They removed that picture. So my thing is, and I'm going to say this in closing, someone who was lying, if I was someone who was not telling the truth, would I go through all of this? I took my ID badge that I worked all these years for, and I used that as a GoFundMe. That was a cry for help, to tell people that I was serious. I was not making this up, because if I was lying about any of this, I would be arrested. So this is just so it's absolutely 100% the truth. That's why they have not done anything but ignored me and censored this information from getting out to anybody to see. But again, if I was not telling the truth, I wouldn't be out here doing interviews. I would be behind bars. Thank you. I'm sorry to be such a crybaby.
You're fine. It's all right. It's all right.
But I have just been dealing with this for so long. And then before I forget, this facility is also now where it used to be, is mostly the people who have been working there for a long time were starting to have symptoms. I'm being told now that new hires, people are coming right in off the bat and, starting to have symptoms. I mentioned in the second book that it was a coworker. I didn't know this person well, but they didn't have asthma, but all of a sudden they had an asthma attack, and they ended up dying. And that was unfortunate, but these people have been complaining, but just like me, it go on deaf ears.
There's a place inside my mind unseen, dreams of you and I that just can't be, but I can keep them safe and locked away inside. In a perfect world where I controlled it, give me your heart there and I would hold it. But I know that just can't be reality. But please, don't you wake my daydream, 'cause it's so real it seems. Maybe someday I'll get my hair from the clouds, but for now I'll just daydream. If you said to jump, then I will do it. Right into the fire and walk straight through it. And if you knew, I bet that's just what you would say. I guess the only thing for me to do is never let you know just how I'm feeling, 'cause I don't want to know if you don't feel the same. It's a shame. Don't you wake my daydream, 'cause it's so real it seems. Maybe someday I'll get my head from the clouds, but for now I'll just daydream. 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 There's a place inside my mind unseen, dreams of you and I that just can't be, but I can keep them safe and locked away inside, inside. But don't you wake my daydream,